Hey y'all, CJ here. I am so excited to bring you guys another world building video since it's been quite a long time since I've created one. And the world of Exodus has changed significantly since the last time we talked. Normally when I do world building videos, I present the world or nation in a more cinematic type of video. I combine videos of reference from real life in combination with the art I illustrate in order to create a mood and vibe that feels immersive for y'all to see. I still love taking this approach to my videos, but I felt that my previous world building videos didn't have enough of a division between the real world and the worlds of Exodus. When I was rewatching my old videos, I found it hard to track whether I was talking about the world of Exodus or talking about my research points. Another thing I found interesting was how I presented the world. I presented the people and regions in a way that felt concrete or permanent. In order to combat these problems and bring you guys a smoother viewing experience, I decided to show you all one complete month of world building. Doing this type of video will bring you guys into my design process and what I'm thinking about when I'm creating the world of Exodus. I hope you guys enjoy it, and without further ado, let's get into it. The most significant change I did was the addition of the Bengal people. But before we get into the culture and lifestyle of these tiger folk, let's look at the inspirations I took and the research behind them. The Bengal people are heavily inspired by South Asian and Indian culture, specifically ancient India. Science and religion in ancient India were entangled and mutually affected one another. The Vedas were sacred to the people of India and included sections speaking of math and astronomy, but also included gods and ceremonies. As we can see, the Vedas heavily affected the people of ancient India in multiple aspects of their life. It not only served as religious education, but also as the basis of living, guiding the people to mirror an orderly cosmos. Two of the most prosperous Indian empires were the Mauryan and Gupta empires. The Mauryan Empire was a pivotal stepping stone that launched the education of hydraulics, astrology, and forestry to prosper in India. Under the Mauryan Empire, large plots of land were irrigated and produced 2 harvests a year. With these farmlands, the empire was able to feed large populations of people. On the other hand, maintaining these crops required a lot of manpower, planning, and knowledge. In order to provide these needs, Indian states created a whole government operation in order to maintain the farmlands. They controlled a vast array of canals and sluices, a sliding gate or other device for controlling the flow of water, especially one in a lock gate. These were funded by taxes. Because of their control over water, the Mauryan Empire was known as the hydraulic state. The Mauryan Empire also created forestry departments in order to house elephants. Elephants were not only significant spiritually but also physically. Training war elephants were crucial for the security and military power required to run the big state of India. These forestry departments, as well as land and water management, became sciences of their own. Practicing astrology in India meant carefully observing stars and planets, and thus also practicing astronomy. These astrologers created a high social class since they served as part priest, astronomer, and mathematician. As astronomers, they divided the solar years into months, crafting calendars to regulate religious ceremonies. They developed a calculation for adding a leap month when necessary to keep the religious calendar in sync with the solar one. They also investigated moon cycles and constellations. Families of professional astronomers competed with each other. 6 regional schools all fought for state patronage. Now that we know the culture and history that inspired the Bengal people, let's take a look at how this translates to the world of Exodus. The Chakma Empire is a prosperous nation specializing in astronomy, forestry, hydraulics, and sacred knowledge. Gaju Chakma, the ruler of Chakma Empire, governed and expanded the empire throughout the Walistan continent through dictatorship. He dominated the land and became notorious for his superior and ruthless nature. Surrounding nations and even his own people both feared and revered him. Gaju was nearing the completion of the continent. Soon he would rule the entirety of Walistan. There was one last country remaining, and as he sent his largest army, the Chakma soldiers were met with fierce warriors. The war lasted for 3 years within a state of constant bloodshed. Alas, Gaju won the war. He visited the site himself to see the victory he gained in conquering the last country, although it wasn't the victory he was expecting. Gaju was faced with fields and rivers drenched in blood, with bodies upon bodies. It was a total calamity. The sight sent Gaju into a shock and submerged him with unforgettable grief. There, he was met by Arya Fani, an Ethoist monk who forgave Gaju for the death of his mother in the war and introduced him into a new way of living. After this moment of clarity, Gaju converted to Ethoism, devoting his life to its teachings and guidance. This conversion led to a change within the Chakma Empire. Gaju became a benevolent ruler and introduced Cosmethoism, a branch of Ethoism, into his ruling. Gaju used his power to build stupas, aka temples, and stone pillars with inscribed teachings of Cosmethoism. To better unify the people and educate new Cosmethians, he created the Vedas. This sacred knowledge spoke about nature, religion, morality, teachings of wisdom, and math. These Vedas created a unified language and way of living for the Chakma Empire, teaching people to live a life that mirrors an orderly cosmos. In order for the people to learn these texts, they developed a science of linguistics. The Bengal people created a tradition of memorizing these texts through acoustics and music. These songs were taught through generations and allowed the Vedas to spread organically and easily. As education grew and evolved, the Bengal people created new sciences and studies that branched off of and grew the Vedas' knowledge. These sciences included forestry, hydraulics, astronomy, and artistry. Forestry departments were created to house elephants. Elephants served spiritually and physically. Forestry allowed the surrounding woodlands to flourish and prosper, housing healthy elephants. Tending to the forest became an art and science within itself. The verdant forest grew to become sacred within the Bengal's culture. The only people allowed to enter these woodlands were foresters and Cosmethian monks. These monks would observe the elephants, noticing how they were able to manipulate water through their trunks and spout it out as rainfall. As the monks studied the woodlands further, they ventured deeper into the woodlands. Here, they would come across anomalies that seemed otherworldly, almost as if they walked into a different forest entirely. These anomalies included floating raindrops, a sky that would flow as water, and rivers running under their feet. These monks would document these phenomena and tell the people about it. Inspired by these elephants, the Bengal people experimented with hydrology in order to mimic the elephants. This led to the study of hydraulics. Hydraulics allowed the people of Chakma Empire to irrigate more than half the arable land, creating farms that stretched for fields upon fields, producing up to 3 harvests on a fruitful year. These fields connected all the cities within the empire and became one of the many common factors connecting them. Creating these hydraulic systems required a lot of knowledge in how to maintain irrigation systems and keep them clean. Chakma city-states came together to create a government department solely to supervise the building of irrigation systems. Many of the agricultural techniques were inspired from Kabuto farming. Through trade with surrounding cities and towns, farming techniques were able to get exchanged between nation to nation. I hope you guys enjoyed that sneak peek into the Chakma Empire. Now that we talked about the Bengal people's empire and way of living, let's talk about the Bengal people individually. Before drawing the Bengal people, I first collected reference images for mood boards and clothing. Let's take a look at the photo references I collected and why I chose them. I took this reference because I really love the aesthetic that this reference provides. The colors are really warm and it really matches with the mood and tone that I want to set for the empire within the Bengal people's culture. I really love the draped carpets on the top here. I think they're really fun and it's a really interesting way to provide shade from the sun, because obviously if they're a civilization that is within the desert and a civilization within a really hot climate, they're gonna have to find ways to block the sun, and I think that carpets are a really fun way to do that, but also add visual interest. This reference, I actually took the picture in the Star Wars section in Hollywood Studios in Disney World, and I really love these lanterns. I love the shape that these lanterns provide, and the lanterns, they're not all the same. They're very different from one another, but still fall under the same visual aesthetic. But it shows like the personalities of the different people that created these different lanterns, and I really love that. This is a photo of a cart that I took for reference, and I took it because just the amount of stuff on the cart looks very visually interesting, and I wanted to use this to model it for a merchant, like a traveling merchant that would go around and selling to different nomads on trade roads and stuff like that. This is more of the Star Wars section in the Hollywood studios. I took this reference again to really flesh out the mood and environment that I want, because having this decorations on the wall just shows how much that space is lived in, and it really makes it feel alive and like that space is being used, and like every little corner of that space is not being wasted. It has a function and it has a purpose, and it's really cool to see that visually without it explicitly telling you. It's more of that visual storytelling that really captures what I want to illustrate in the Empire. This is another photo of the Star Wars section. It really shows the dynamic between the different buildings that are within this little bazaar section, and it shows how the buildings are not only connected like physically, but also are connected most likely in the trades that they do. As you can see in the different types of lamps, like this lamp is very different from this lamp, and they were probably created with the different artisans that live here, right? You know, it really enforces that feeling of the space being lived in. This also kind of enforces that mood and aesthetic with the different lanterns being used and also different carpets. This really shows artisans and artistry being a pivotal point of their culture, with the different carpets being so unique from each other but still falling under the cultural aesthetic. And it can show like the different generational stories and ancestral stories between the different houses. This is a photo of a bazaar or like a trading area, and I really want this to be a very pivotal point for the Bengal people, since I really want their empire to be built off of trade with surrounding nations. So I really wanted to have the mood and atmosphere of a trading area fleshed out. These are more of those lanterns that I took a photo for reference. This is a reference that I am using to model it for a traveling nomad or merchant, and I thought it was cool to see all the different types of fabrics that they were adorned with. When I walked in the Star Wars section in Disney World, I was just like utterly taken away at the craftsmanship that they used, and it was just such an atmosphere of inspiration for me, especially the different lanterns. I've been talking about these lanterns a lot, but it's just so interesting to see the visual noise that this space has, and it really communicates the theme and atmosphere that this space has, with, you know, a lot of vendors and merchants and traders and artisans all coming together in this space to show their skills and to trade with other people. And that constant state of exchange is really shown with how the different cords and the different lanterns and wires span from building to building and wall to wall. I really could not get enough of these lanterns.
I want every gun we have to fire on that man. Do it.
They were just so interesting to see the amalgamation of different styles that were used to create lanterns that all come together. This was a photo that I took in the Morocco part of Disney World Epcot, and I really love the different plates, and these are some references for a basic building, but having like the pots and stuff like that is really visually interesting to me to show how much these buildings are lived in. And this is a big trading area for pots and stuff like that, and I think this is so interesting because as you venture through the empire of the Bengal people, you see all of these different pots and pottery and artistry, and you wonder where these come from, and having this as a reference to show where they come from is really interesting to me and shows that relationship between artisans and the surrounding environment. This is an alley that I have because I feel like the most important parts of a big city are the alleyways that make it, because it's those areas of unfiltered contact with the people and the culture that they are in, and how unfiltered it is shows the true nature of an empire, and I really wanted to capture that. And I used this as the reference for the carpets mainly, to show the different designs that are within carpets and how people display them from their balconies. And I think that is so much fun and so interesting to see the different patterns that are used and how the different patterns can tell different stories of the people that live within the houses and what the patterns mean to them. This is a reference that I used for like a trading area that they would trade spices. This is a really small, clustered shop, and I find it so interesting to see all the different knickknacks and accessories that are being sold in just this one area, and it shows how used this space is. And this, I really liked the mood that this brought. It brought a very eerie vibe to it and a very sketchy vibe to it, and I think it's really important to add areas of mystery within an empire and just within a world in general to keep people wondering and creating theories about what this space is used for and the stories that evolved and branched off of from this place. So I use this area as a reference because I just found it so interesting how tapestries are used and can be used, to show off wealth, because you had to buy these tapestries somehow, and just how they use it as decorations and how they decorate with it. Before we continue with the video, I wanted to let you guys know that my commissions are now open. Simply email me at any time for questions or concerns regarding commission work. My email is cjstarlight1c29@gmail.com. That's cjstarlight1c29@gmail.com. You can also find my email in the description of this video and in my channel bio. I specialize in character design, thumbnails, portraits, stickers, concept art, and landscapes. The commission process is very quick and easy. Simply email me at cjstarlight1c29@gmail.com and I will get back to you with a couple questions and 2 easy to fill forms for clear communication. Obviously, there are some ground rules like no inappropriate artwork, USD only, and no refunds. But other than that, I would be elated to bring your ideas to life. Email me at cjstarlight1c29@gmail.com for a commission today. Now that we have seen the references used, let's see how they apply to the Bengal's design. So this was a little illustration, a quick illustration that I did for Arya Fani, which is an Ethoist monk. The only thing that I would change about this is adding a little bit of white fur here, because in actual Bengal tigers they have the white fur there. But other than that, I really love how this came out, and I really like the contrast between the indigo with the orange. This is a sketch to show the full body of the monk. You see the little tiger feet down here, and the proportions are really fun. I like how big and bulky the upper body is and how small the lower body is in comparison. These are some sketches that I did of more Bengal people. Over here, you have the more street class Bengal people, and I wanted to show that in the actual color of clothing that they have, because red and indigo were easy colors to obtain, while purple purple, and richer colors were obviously harder to obtain. So I wanted to show that in their design. Here is a little design that I have for a traveling merchant. I thought it would be cool to have this big head wrap with a whole bunch of different knickknacks to show his experience in trading with other people and his enjoyment of collecting different items. Here we have a guardsman, and I really wanted his color scheme to match that of a peacock feather, with the dark greens and the lighter blues. And here is an aristocrat, a very high social class person, and I really wanted to show how much more kept and tidy he is compared to the street folk, with how the street folk, their tails are very fluffy and their fur has little bits of hair sticking out, but the tail of the aristocrat and the astronomer, they have very well kept tails. And here is a little astronomer, very much literally a literal astronomer, and I really love how I was able to put little indications of astronomy like the moons and the stars within the designs of the Bengal people to just show how pivotal astronomy is to the empire. Here are some more sketches that I have for the different types of people that you would see more regularly in the Chakma Empire. Here you have a traveling nomad, and I really love the mystery that he has with the hooded face and the completely shaded face that you can't really see a likeness that he has. And here is an artisan. I really wanted to design an artisan because, as you saw in the references that I collected, artistry is a very pivotal point in the Chakma Empire. This is a forester. I really like how this one came out. I was a little not lost when it came to design, but a lot of it had to be improv because I didn't really have good references when it came to foresters. The clothing that they had was very contemporary and very modern, and obviously that's not the vibe that I'm going for, but it was really fun kind of coming up with my own design of how a forester would look like. And all the way over here we have a little sketch for a monk, and the marking here on the chest of the monk was inspired by Sakyan tattoo. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that wrong, but it was tattoos and markings used with geometric shapes to provide the wearer or the monk with protection, good fortune, and other positive attributes, and also to ward off evil spirits. I thought that was a really interesting way to show their culture and to show the beliefs that the monks have. And this is a little sketch, but I really wanted to make known the different carpets that were suspended between building to building, and the little subtle details of the moon and the stars and the lotus flowers. So I was designing the different masks that the monks would wear. As you noticed, the monk here didn't have a face because in the sketch I wanted to put the mask on him. And let's talk about the different purposes of these different masks. So the different masks that are used in the monks, I wanted to reflect the actual hierarchy that are in monasteries. So you have the sacrist, which is in charge of the monastery's book. So I didn't want to make a mask for that because based off of what I want to do in my world, I didn't want to create a mask for that since I just do not really see it as a useful thing to create a mask for. But the cantor, which leads the monk's choir, is in the form of a forest mask or a forest elephant, which I wanted to show in the design. You have the peacock feather as the main symbol, and the peacock feather color scheme being shown in the actual elephant. And the next level up is the lector, which is responsible for reading lessons in the church, which is the water elephant. And the water elephant is signified with the lotus flower. So obviously the blue in the elephant represents water, but the ombre between the darker red, the pink, and the lighter pink is supposed to represent the lotus flower, because in some lotus flowers, there's the petals that they have is an ombre between dark and light pink. And the next level up is the prior, which is the abbot's deputy and runs the monastery when the abbot is away. And that is the sky elephant or the day elephant. And the different colors represent, the different elements of the sky. So you have your darker yellow and your lighter yellow, which is supposed to represent the sun. And in the sky, there's an ombre between a darker blue and a lighter blue. And I wanted to show the different hues of the sky within the colors of the element. And the little star here on the ear is supposed to show how the sun is a star. And the next level up is the abbot, which is the head of the monastery and responsible for its financial aspects, and is also known as the father of fathers. So here is the mask that the abbot would use. And this one is the cosmos elephant, or the night elephant. And the different colors are supposed to show the different colors of the cosmos. You know, red, green, and yellow being like displayed in a galaxy. And you know, you have your moon symbol, but the different colors are also used to represent the different levels of the monastery and the different types of elephants. So the red that you have here is supposed to represent the red lotus flower, and the green is supposed to represent the verdant forest, or the forest of the elephant, and the orange and yellow is supposed to represent the sun and sky, and the blue sapphire gemstones that are constant within the different elephant designs are supposed to represent water, as the elephants can manipulate water through their trunks. And as you may or may not have noticed, the different levels, the elephants and their trunks unravel more to show the class and to show the hierarchy and authority that the different elephants have. And yeah, that's the elephant masks, and more about the monks as well. And that concludes the art that I created for the Bengal people. Although the Bengal are pretty secure in terms of their design and story, I am still in the concept stage of Project Exodus. These are likely going to change for the betterment of the story and world. Due to the complexity of this topic, I had to split this video into two. There's still so much that I want to talk to you guys about, but I don't want this video to end up being 2 hours long. I hope you guys enjoyed your time here and found the Bengal people interesting. If you did, consider liking the video and sharing with a friend who might be interested in the world of Exodus. If you want to see more content like this, subscribe and hit the bell icon so you can get notified when a new video drops. I have huge plans for the world of Exodus, and I would love to bring you guys along for the ride. So stay tuned for part 2 of this video. See you soon!